Welcome back, everyone, to Movies You Missed Podcast, the podcast that recommends movies to you without spoiling them, usually films that are really underrated or need to be revisited, and sometimes movies that we just love no matter how popular they were. How you doing today, John?
Doing pretty good. Looking forward to this episode.
Me too. We haven't done a musical episode in quite some time.
I can't remember the last time we did a musical. It might have been Singing in the Rain, way back in the early days of Movies You Missed Podcast.
It was a long time ago, yes, and that's too bad because you and I both are fans of musicals. I just don't have that many to choose from that you also wouldn't choose.
That's a solid point.
But we will be doing these episodes in the future because we still have a couple on our list that we'd love to discuss, including Moulin Rouge in Chicago.
Yeah.
And The Greatest Showman that you introduced me to.
Mm-hmm.
And so today will be a nice light episode, which is something I think we need not only because we are getting back into the swing of things after our two big recap episodes. We hope you guys enjoyed that, but also we unexpectedly took a week off for some personal reasons and had a memorial episode for Catherine O'Hara. And despite those movies being funny, it was a heavier episode, so I was really looking forward to this one.
I was very much looking forward to this one. I hadn't seen your pick, actually, or my pick in a handful of years. I think I actually watched your pick sooner than I watched my pick, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, more recently. That totally makes sense. And
more recently, that's the dialect I was looking for. I watched it sooner. Yours, I have on VHS a copy of your movie, and I have the DVD, but I think my parents have been holding on to my pick of this week's DVD, so I had to rent it, but that's okay, because I got to rent it in 4K, and it looked pretty magnificent.
Oh, I bet it did, and I actually have watched my pick more recently than yours, only because I've never seen yours, so...
Oh, that's true, yes.
Watching my pick within the last 10 years, I'd say. But it was really nice to revisit, and I'm looking forward to our conversations about both movies, especially because I had never seen yours. I always like those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that in just a minute, and I'll tell you that our theme beyond musical is, I would say, 60s.
Yeah, definitely the 60s.
I certainly think, although the styles are quite different with our movies, they are a good pairing.
It is a good pairing, and very different styles, absolutely.
And so we'll get into that in just a second, but as many of you know, we like to discuss the new movies we've seen in theaters or on streaming over the last week, and now that we're into 2026 and post-recap episode, we will be discussing mostly 2026 movies. I think here or there we'll throw in some 2025ers until the Oscars. So let's dive into those movies. And since you watch more movies and you're good about listing them in order, depending on how you want to talk about them, why don't you manage our discussion today?
All right, sounds good. I will start us off with the 3 2025 movies that I watched that are all Oscar nominated.
Plus another 2025 movie that you watched with me.
Yes, there's that one as well.
All right, let's do that.
Do you want to do that one first?
No. Go into the... Well, you did hate it, and you usually start with the ones you hate first, but...
Oh, yeah, solid point.
Oscar noms if you want.
No, let's jump into that one. Why not? I didn't hate it. It just wasn't what I was looking... It just didn't hit some of the notes properly for me personally, and I like the idea, but there was just something about it that was not sitting with me, and I honestly don't know what it is. I think it's just one of those things where it's like,
Yeah, it just fell flat.
Yeah, it fell flat for me, and this is Mads Mikkelsen, David Dastmalchian, and Sigourney Weaver, and this very talented young actress named Sophie Sloane. This movie is called Dust Bunny.
Yes, it was a movie that we were both excited to watch it when the trailer popped up a few months ago, but I kind of pushed us to watch it last week when we were together.
Yeah, and watching it with you was fun. The movie, like I said, fell flat for me personally.
Which I was pretty surprised by because I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really cool, very sweet, had a lot of heart to it. I loved Sigourney Weaver so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved the style. It was like Lemony Snicket, or if Tim Burton and Wes Anderson got together.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
So it was very colorful. The set designs were very cool and funky. The costumes were great. Mads Mikkelsen did a good job too. And it was just very imaginative. And I thought that was really cool. And it felt pretty original. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well, of course. And Brian Fuller wrote and directed this film. He wrote 81 episodes of Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, wow.
And then he went on to create this show that my dad and I love called Dead Like Me. It was unfortunately canceled really early, but we loved that show.
I remember when that was on.
He also made Pushing Daisies and the show Hannibal, which is how he knows Mads.
Oh, wow.
And so he has a really great filmography. He definitely has a creative brain and is very imaginative. And so, I think it's a weird film. I think a lot of people, not a lot, but people who don't like The Bride would not like Dust Bunny. Let's put it that way.
That's a very interesting...
Because it's just a trip, right? I mean...
Yeah, I guess...
These are not straightforward
I
films.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Dust Bunny is a monster movie. And like I said, it was a cool idea that just... I don't know, maybe I gotta watch it again. We'll see. But either way, I didn't hate it. I gave it, I think a C-, C- or C, just flat C.
See, I gave it a B+, getting close to an A- because I loved it that much.
Mm-hmm.
Really loved the story. Like I said, the costume and set design were beautiful. There was a part at the very, very end that I thought was a little too off. I didn't think they needed it at all. It seemed very unnecessary. But otherwise, I enjoyed every minute of it. So I'm sorry that you didn't like it, but I'm glad we watched it together.
Definitely. I maybe we'll watch it again in the future, and I'll have a different opinion about it.
Maybe.
All right, let's go into the 3 movies that I watched that are Oscar nominees while you and my wife were having a Bridgerton marathon.
No regrets.
No regrets. I watched 2 movies that I really enjoyed and another one that I'll just talk about it in a second. I guess I might as well start there with my ranking system.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 that I watched were Song Sung Blue, Blue Moon, and If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. And I'm going to start with If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Rose Byrne, we all know, is a really talented actress, and I don't think we need a movie like this to tell us that. I don't know if she needs... I don't think she's going to win the Oscar this year because this is a role that has been played by Amy Adams in the past in a film called Night Bitch and most recently Jennifer Lawrence in Die, My Love. So in my personal opinion, it didn't feel really that original, and there were just so many moments where I was like, really? But then I'm thinking unfortunately, I've known a few women like this. And it was interesting. I don't think I would recommend it, but since it's an Oscar nominee, V, I hope you check it out before the ceremony.
Oh, I'm going to, but it's good to hear your opinion on that. And I mean, we all know based on her success with the award season, this is Jessie Buckley's Oscar, unless she's... fumbled it because of her comments about hating cats, which has caused a bit of a scandal recently.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Which I was pretty disappointed by, not because she said she hates cats, just because that's such a cliche comment, right? But because she threatened her now husband with breaking up with him unless he got rid of his cats, and I thought that was
really?
I
didn't hear any of this.
Humongous red flag. Yeah, anyone who is a potential partner who ever says or whoever gives you an ultimatum like that with your pets, immediately drop them to the curb.
Oh yeah,
that is a
absolutely.
red flag.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty disappointing. Otherwise, I'm still rooting for Jessie Buckley because she did have an incredible performance.
The next film I watched was Song Sung Blue, starring Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson. Kate Hudson is nominated for Best Actress up against Rose Byrne in the film I just talked about. And I saw the trailer for Song Sung Blue maybe 5 or 6 times, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I've heard Sweet Caroline enough to never want to watch that movie.
Neither of us wanted to watch this film. We never would have if it wasn't Oscar nominated.
Nope,
we were
definitely.
forced to.
Yeah, it was a bit of a force. And a friend of mine watched it and said it was really good and said that I would probably like it. So I watched it, and I actually did enjoy it very much. I got quite emotional during certain moments in the movie. I thought Hugh Jackman was great, and I definitely see why Kate Hudson was nominated. And it's not really anything new either, kind of like If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, but it's still a good performance, and I can see why they petitioned for her to get nominated.
Okay, well... I love that when you came downstairs, you were shocked at how great it was, but also said...
Yeah.
Still doesn't make me a Neil Diamond fan.
No, does not. Does not make me a Neil Diamond fan. It's got good songs, but it's nothing I'm going to put on my own.
No, I think we both prefer the soundtracks to the movies we picked this week.
Yes, that is very true. And the last film I watched on streaming, I actually rented because it's an Oscar nominee. Richard Linklater directed it. It is written by Robert Kaplow. It is based on letters from Lorenz Hart, who was one of the lyricists that worked with Rogers before Rogers became Roger and Hammerstein. This is a film starring Ethan Hawke as Lorenz Hart and Margaret Qualley as well, and Bobby Cannavale and Andrew Scott. This is a film called Blue Moon.
But I've heard a lot of great things about Ethan Hawke's performance in this.
Oh my gosh, yeah, completely transformative. The Northman has been my favorite performance of his over the last several years, but this was one of those moments where there are times where it does not look like Ethan Hawke, and he's really damn good in this movie. It's pretty much a bottle episode. It takes place in one location, but the dialogue is really sharp and witty, and it's a very interesting story. So I highly recommend checking out Blue Moon, especially since Ethan Hawke is nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the Oscar noms I am excited to watch over the next week before our Oscar episode. It's just too bad that the discussion around his performance has kind of fallen to the wayside now that we have a couple of frontrunners for Best Actor, because from everything I've heard, he absolutely deserved that nomination and potentially a win in another year. If it was another year with different nominees, right?
It's possible, yeah.
Okay, well,
I definitely. Oh yeah, it's highly enjoyable. It felt like a much better Woody Allen movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So those are the 3 that I watched, Oscar-nominated films. So now, V, it's time to jump into the movies that we saw over the last 2 weeks that we watched together.
Yes.
And I think if you want to go with my way of doing things, then you should start with the one that you had, for some reason, a sour taste in your mouth about after you saw it.
Yes, I caught up watching this film, even though you've discussed it like 1 or 2 weeks ago in our previous episodes. But I went and watched it, and then you were shocked because I hated it. And this is the Rachel McAdams, Dylan O'Brien movie, Send Help.
Yeah. And we had a heated convo about this one, ladies and gentlemen, and V still came out not liking the movie. I don't understand.
I mean, given our very strong personalities, I don't even think it's heated for us. Like, that wasn't even heated. For other people, it would probably be considered
true. Well, we were
heated.
we were getting worked up about another movie that we were going to talk
That's
about
true.
next.
Yeah,
I think that
true.
actually should be our next movie that we discuss.
Okay, so first let me finish up the discussion about Send Help.
Yes, you're incorrect one.
My first big problem with this movie is that Rachel McAdams in no universe is ugly.
That's very true. No, she's not.
And they tried to ugly her up in most of this movie, and it just did not work. And there are
I'd push back on most of it. Only like the first 10, 15 minutes, because then when she's on the island...
She starts to come out of her shell, but even the first 30 minutes on the island, she's still supposed to be awkward and not.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
She has to get comfortable there and stuff. So there are so many talented actresses who could have embodied that role so much better. Not dismissing Rachel McAdams' talent at all. I just felt like the casting was wrong.
All right.
And it was really gross for grossness' sake. It felt a lot like Drag Me to Hell, and that you picked a couple months ago, and so there was no purpose for it being that disgusting, and I never ever enjoy things that are either gross or explicit or whatever just for that sake. It's not driving the plot forward. I think that's rather cheap and lazy, honestly. So I didn't like that part either, and then I really hated where the story went.
Yeah, I know.
And that was my biggest problem with the movie. Yeah. So I give it a C-D+. I did not like this film.
Gracious.
It's the first movie on my should miss list.
For
2026.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
So, audience, go ahead and watch that film and be the tiebreaker for John and I.
Yeah, let us know. I saw it twice in theaters. I had a great time with it. All right, let's get into another movie that we saw. Quite the cast in this one. Mark Ruffalo and Chris Hemsworth and Halle Berry and Barry Keoghan and Nick Nolte. And you and I kind of were talking about it also, and I think that was one of my favorite conversations of 2026. I wish we would have recorded it, because breaking that movie down, it could have been like a special hidden episode that we dropped, just completely breaking it down and how pretty upset we were at realizing this movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. And both you and I had optimism about watching this film when we saw the trailers. And
absolutely,
it looked like it could come together, and it didn't.
No, it really didn't.
And I liked the movie for the most part walking out of the theater. And then we started talking about it. I was like, oh yeah, it really is not that good of a movie.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt walking out of the theater. I was like, yeah, that was... Right? That was... yeah. No.
Did you tell everybody what the title of this movie is yet?
Oh, and by the way, everybody, this movie is titled Crime 101.
Yeah, sorry.
We just already went off on a tangent there. Crime 101 is the name of this film we are currently discussing.
So yes, I'll start off with the things I liked about it, and then you can come in with a reality check, because that's what happened after we watched the movie. A lot of it felt like Heat, where it wasn't a super action crime thriller 2/3 of this movie, and I really like that aspect of it. I like that LA was a full-fledged character within the film. That was cool. Score is incredible.
It is. It's very, very, very good.
Blank Mass was the one who composed the score, and I actually ended up listening to it after watching this movie because I thought it was so good.
Oh, nice.
It's very intense. It's very dark. Felt very perfect for this role.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Chris Hemsworth actually did do a pretty good performance, and it's something we hadn't seen from him before, which was very refreshing because I'm so used to him being so loud and big in Thor movies.
True.
So that was really fun. And then the last third of the movie went off the rails, and that was the thing that really started to upset me and make me not like the movie as much. And so I was like, okay, leaving the theater. It was mostly good, and I really enjoyed the 2/3 of it and almost 3/4 of it. And so, yeah, it's still like a B+ movie for me because I liked all these aspects to it. And then John started bringing up a couple things. I was like, oh yeah, I just ignored all of these.
Yeah, I think I did too. But then when I was driving home in silence, because I was like just marinating on what, especially when it ended, I was like, and then I'm driving home and I'm realizing things. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? No. Oh, come on. Yeah, I gave it like I think I gave it a solid C, not a C+ or minus, just a solid C. Definitely a streamable movie, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, definitely a streamable movie. I agree with you. It's on the could miss list. I didn't hate it. Neither of us hated it. But you're right. Barry Keoghan's character was completely wasted. None of the characters were fully fleshed out. Like, you had such good points that I cannot disagree with you. In fact, you just convinced me and cleared my eyes up a little bit, and we were like, oh yeah, this is like a C movie, damn it.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Disappointing.
Very much so. V, you ready to talk about the next movie?
Oh, you know I am.
All right. Well, it's one of your favorite franchises, so you might as well take the reign on this one.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, it is one of my favorite franchises, and we have the return of our star final girl of this franchise because I am talking about Neve Campbell in Scream 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
So excited for this film to come out, and so happy with her return. And so I went in with not high expectations, but just a lot of excitement, and it was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't care about most of the other characters. I think the casting was way off. The casting for her...
I will highly agree with you there.
Oh, thank God. Yes. The casting of her husband and her daughter, I did not give a shit about either of those characters. They had
weird.
No chemistry whatsoever between her or each other.
Definitely not.
I was super bummed out that because in Scream 3, she actually was getting together with Patrick Dempsey at the time. Oh. And the lore of the franchise was that they ended up getting married and moving away, and they had kids together. And so the person they put in to that role, it was a different last name, so maybe it wasn't a full recast. It's just somebody different. But yeah, casting choices were horrible. I did not care about her daughter. She didn't look like her.
No.
She's not a good actress, and you've got to if it's going to be Neve Campbell's daughter, Sidney Prescott's daughter, you got to do a good job at casting that.
I agree.
Those were my biggest problems with the movie. Otherwise, the killers were only okay with their motivations. So this is in kind of the middle or lower tier for me in terms of Scream movies.
Okay.
Definitely watch it if you've watched all the other ones and you're just a fan. And it's a good slasher film for the year, but definitely not one of the best of the franchise. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, actually a little bit. I don't like 4 through 6. I didn't like any of those ones.
Oh, disagree.
Wow. Oh yeah, I know you liked those last 3. I didn't. They weren't memorable to me. Not that this one is necessarily going to be memorable to me, but I didn't hate it. I had a much better time with it than I thought I would. But I will agree with you. The casting was completely way off. And for certain characters, otherwise it was fine. I did love when Gail shows back up. I thought that was great.
And the brother sister.
yeah, that was good. But overall, I guess I would give that one like a C+. I went in with no expectations because I'm not a big slasher fan. But it was an entertaining almost 2 hours.
Yeah, it really was. Especially the pizza parlor scene. Those kills were pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh, the fucking beer tap kill was. That was wild.
It was, yeah. So
when he started picking them up, I was like, "Oh, here we go!" And it just went exactly where I knew it was going to go.
Yes.
And there is a return of another character, and that was pretty badass. Actually, there was like couple of jaw-dropping moments for me.
Yeah,
especially from the first 3, even the first one. But yeah, a fun time.
It was definitely more entertaining and enjoyable than Crime 101.
That is for sure. And then all 3 of us ended up going to see a movie that my wife and V ended up reading the book for just before the movie came out. They allowed me to attend the movie viewing with them. This is Emerald Fennell's inspired take based on the book of Wuthering Heights with Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi.
Yeah, what?
It was all right.
Disappointment.
I didn't hate it.
I was just so excited after watching the first trailer. It looked so cool and stylized. She just couldn't stick the landing at all.
Well, I remember you saying that you liked it more than you thought you would.
Well, only because everybody had been shitting on it for like 2 weeks before that.
So now that you've had some time, you don't like the movie.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, everybody online had just been saying how horrible it was before we watched it. So I
Right,
had very,
right.
very low expectations. And in that way, I was delighted. And yeah, my problem is that it was a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
She should have gone full-fledged Baz Luhrmann and taken a very classic piece of literature and turned it into something new and fresh, like he did with Romeo and Juliet. And she just did not go far enough. And so with that, when she brought in some fresher takes or a lot of modern styling for costumes or set design, it just felt so out of place because it was fighting with the more traditional look of a lot of other set pieces and a lot of other costumes.
Right.
And so I always felt very confused and taken out of the world because of that.
Oh, all right.
She also rewrote the entire story, which...
Right, yeah, that's what you and Amy were saying. That is a completely different story.
Would be fine if it was backed up with new and fresh modernization of other pieces of the film. So yeah, it just felt very discombobulated to me, and that was my biggest issue with it. I also didn't think a lot of the performances were very good. I've seen much better from Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And I don't think it was their fault. It felt they did as much as they could with the material they were given.
Right, yeah, I get you. I totally agree with that.
So yeah, if people are interested in watching it, I think it's really just out of morbid curiosity you can watch it, but otherwise it's really close to a should-miss movie for me.
Whoa, all right.
Yeah, it was only okay. It was like
I think
C minus.
Yeah, I think that's what I gave it when we walked out. I ended up, I think, nodding off for about 5 minutes.
You did.
So
both Amy and I were laughing at you. It was great.
Yeah, didn't think it was going to happen, but it did. I was a little like, okay, let's get going on some things in this movie. And I did like the costumes, and I thought that the locations were cool, but it was just so isolated, and maybe that was the whole point. I don't know. I just anticipated a lot more based off of the trailer. It sounds like we both did anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's Wuthering Heights, everybody. Check it out if you want.
Yeah.
I likely will never watch it again unless my wife is like, hey, let's watch Wuthering Heights again.
She's not going to want to watch it again either.
Probably not. No. Probably not. All right, we're at the final movie, and a movie that I took my wife to. That V, it sounds like you also saw.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This is the kick-ass Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale and Annette Bening in Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
Hell yeah.
I loved it. Amy has not stopped talking about it, and we saw it Thursday. And now that she's out of town for the next couple of days, she'll probably try and get Brittany to go see it with her. I hope she does, because she really liked the movie, and I did too. When it ended, I was like, hell yeah, that was kick-ass.
It really was. I loved everything about it. Jessie Buckley is magnificent. She is such a talent. I love that everybody is getting to know her by name now. She played two characters in this movie who felt so different that I had to keep reminding myself that it was also Jessie Buckley.
Abso-fucking-lutely. It was like an hour in. I'm like, that is Buckley, but it doesn't look or sound like her at all. Every time.
She plays three characters in this movie. Holy shit.
Yeah. I loved the opening. I thought the opening in black and white was so awesome. I was so in immediately. And Annette Bening as Dr. Euphronius, so awesome. It was, it kicked ass. And I loved the putting on the Ritz moment. That shit just was like, and the style was so kick ass. And the colors popped. I'm absolutely seeing The Bride again in theaters.
And I'm actually really glad that we talked about Wuthering Heights right before this, even though it wasn't our second favorite movie of the last week.
No, it wasn't. I forgot about Wuthering Heights, so you had to remind me.
But you see how Maggie Gyllenhaal went all in on the time period.
Oh, yes.
And that's what I'm talking about, is that she took a very classic piece of literature and brought it into the 20th century. Mm-hmm. Every single car and costume was impeccable.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it so much. It's a wonderful feminist message, too, which I really, really liked.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a trip. It's such a different way to tell a story. It's definitely non-traditional. Like, people who want standard popcorn movies will hate this film.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm actually shocked that Amy liked it, only because there's a lot of feelings of secondhand embarrassment because they both are so awkward in the movie.
Oh, yeah. I think that's actually, oddly enough, what Amy really liked about this movie.
That's good, though. And
Yeah.
I love that she used her husband as the detective, and then also
Yeah, that was great.
having Penelope Cruz in there. There's a great cast. Annette Bening. It was so refreshing to see her again because I haven't seen her in a long time in a movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Since, was it Naiad, her last big movie?
Yeah, so that was like 3-4 years ago. So it's
Yeah,
good
that was
to
a
see her
minute.
again. I just love the story so much. And when you have someone who can outshine Christian Bale,
I know.
you know they are a generational talent, and that's
Absolutely.
what Jessie Buckley did in this movie.
Hell yeah. No, totally right. I've been thinking about the movie ever since we saw it, and I was like, yeah, Christian Bale. But he's good in everything, and he always is, and he's great in this fucking movie. But Buckley was just transformative.
Yeah.
Like, unreal. The dress and the hair and the splotch
the
from
makeup.
Makeup was so kick-ass.
On both of them.
And the soundtrack by Hinder, I cannot pronounce her last name. She did the Joker soundtrack. She is a wonderful composer. Yeah, 2 thumbs massively high for The Bride. And Amy has been trying to find the shooting script online because she really wants to read it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, I could probably be convinced. I know it's early in the year, but it might end up on my can't miss list. It was.
It's already on my can't miss list.
Nice.
It was I remember the trailer and I was super excited for it, but it really surpassed my expectations when it ended. I was like, that is not anything that I thought it was going to be, and every minute was a blast.
Yeah, and it's not anything that we're used to seeing, which I loved. And we didn't even talk about Jake Gyllenhaal. Apparently, the man can sing. Where the hell did that come from? I was so impressed.
I always watch the credits, and I stayed this time just to read them all and give everybody their due, but I wanted to know if those songs were performed by Jake Gyllenhaal, and they were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all the movie theater sequences were really awesome, too. The movie's fucking awesome. See The Bride, support it. It's so kick-ass.
It really is. It's getting some mixed responses, but I really liked what she did, and I thought it was very daring of her, and especially as someone who doesn't normally direct. I mean, we were used to seeing Maggie Gyllenhaal. Well, we just talked about her in The Dark Knight when she played Rachel.
Yep.
Getting behind the camera and doing something as bold as that, I mean, hats off.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So
a lot of fun.
Awesome. I'm glad you liked it. I did not, honestly, when it ended, I looked at Amy. I was like, I'll bet you anything V's going to hate this one. But
my sister hated it. And
I know, you told me that. I
felt bad.
surprised.
Yeah. So was I, because we're really getting to know Shannon's taste as well, and it seemed like it would be right up her alley, but I think it was just too weird, and I respect that. I mean, I've said the same thing about some movies you love, and so...
That's very true.
Yeah, but I'm glad we're ending on a high note of a movie we watched together.
Hell yeah.
Now that we've talked about the newer movies we've seen, let's rewind the clock a bit and discuss some older movies, not only in the time that they were produced, but also the time that they're set. And since this is an odd episode, that means you go first, so why don't you take it away?
All right, let's do it. Let's rewind. We are in the year 2026. Let's rewind almost 20 years ago to a year that apparently I just cannot get enough of in the cinematic world, 2007. This film, I saw twice in theaters, I think within a week. I went to the ArcLight, my buddy and I, who I don't really actually hang out with anymore at all, but we, of course, got really high and went down to the ArcLight, saw this movie opening day, and the cool thing about the ArcLight, and actually a lot of movie theaters now, is you can pick the seats that you're going to sit in. And when we got to the theater, we got there a little late, and all of the seats were literally almost gone, and there were 2 other seats, same row but on the opposite side of each other.
Aww.
So he was on one side of the theater, I was on the other. And I will never forget having to tell the guy next to me to shut the fuck up the entire time watching it the first time, because all he did was sing the fucking songs to his little daughter. And I got so pissed off. I think I finally got up and walked away and found another seat somehow during Happiness is a Warm Gun, because he just would not stop singing these songs to his daughter. And it was so disrespectful and so irritating.
Wait, so how did he respond to you when you asked him to be quiet?
He just looked at me like I was out of my mind to tell him to shut up. Like nobody else in the theater was talking or singing except for this dipwad.
Apparently
and
he
I was
didn't
like,
know it
dude,
wasn't
stop.
a sing-along.
Yeah, no, there's no sing-alongs at the ArcLight.
This isn't
anyway.
the Eras Tour at Cinemark here.
No, it's not. All right, I have not mentioned the title of this movie, but the title of this movie is Across the Universe. This movie stars Evan Rachel Wood, Jim Sturgis, Joe Anderson, Diane Fuchs, Martin Luther TV Carpio. Also, Dylan Baker shows up, which is great. He plays Joe Anderson's father in the movie, Max's father, actually. Max and Lucy are brother and sister. We are first introduced to Jude. He lives over in Liverpool. Yes, we're from Liverpool.
Terrible.
From Liverpool.
Terrible accent.
Yeah, I know. That was my my Paul Rudd as John Lennon from Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Okay.
When they are hanging out with the Beatles. Yes, Liverpool.
I like
Great record.
the way Paul Rudd talks and Forgetting Sarah Marshall better.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
You sound like you're from London.
Yeah, I'm from London. Good stuff. So anyway, we meet Jude in Liverpool. He's a dock worker, and we also find out he's got a girlfriend over in Liverpool. And then we are introduced to Lucy, and she's in high school in America. And this movie opens up with the song Hold Me Tight. And both Jude and Lucy are singing this songs to their significant others at the time. And I like the exposition of that. I really like how the bands in each scene are singing the backup, and Jude and Lucy are singing the lead vocals. And with a little bit more exposition, we find out Lucy's boyfriend is going to be going off to boot camp, and Jude is going to be leaving Liverpool to go to America. We find out that he is also headed to America to find his long-lost father. We also are introduced to Max. He is one of those troublemakers at Princeton, an
Spoiled
Ivy
rich
League,
boy.
spoiled rich boy, Ivy League type. We also are introduced to Prudence, which Prudence doesn't show up a lot in this movie, but I do enjoy when she does. And I really like her introduction of Hold My Hand when she's singing to the other girl cheerleader. I think that sequence is pretty awesome, especially when she's walking through the scrimmage and everything's in slow motion. Really, really cool. The visuals in this movie are pretty top-notch, and I will never forget the first time I saw this movie. Jude makes it to Princeton, actually. He thinks that his father, his long-lost father, is a brainiac professor. Unfortunately, his father is just a maintenance guy. And this is when Jude and Max ultimately meet and cross paths. And Max takes Jude under his wing immediately. They start hanging out. And Max invites Jude home for Thanksgiving. Jude meets Lucy, and Max drops on his parents that he's dropping out of Princeton, and he doesn't really have any direction in his life, but he just kind of wants to live the 60s life, you know, and be a little bit of a nomad and a vagabond, if you will, and just go out and really experience what the world has to offer, especially in New York City. And the scene at the dinner table is great because the grandmother is she's hilarious, and she only has like 3 lines, but very, very funny. And Bill Irwin plays Uncle Teddy, which is amazing because Bill Irwin voices Tars in Interstellar. And I love the back and forth between Bill Irwin and Joe Anderson at the dinner table. I think it's hilarious.
And the grandma is played by the actress who played Mags in the Hunger Games movies.
Oh, very cool. I only saw the one Hunger Games movie. Her name is Lynn Cohen. She plays the Prime Minister of Israel during the film of Munich, if you have seen Munich, the Steven Spielberg flick. Great sequences with her in Munich, but also I love her cranberry line in this movie because it's just out of place, and it's a total grandma line. So Max and Jude book it to New York City. Lucy stays behind because she's waiting for her boyfriend to return on leave from the war, Vietnam. This is set in the 60s. So Vietnam is really kind of taking off. There's protests about Vietnam. We're also introduced to Sadie, who Max and Jude meet. They're looking for an apartment. She's a singer, and she's got a Janis Joplin-esque sort of feel to her. When we first meet her, we are introduced to her as a singer with Why Don't We Do It in the Road, which I think is a great rendition of that song, especially her voice. And then we meet JoJo after a incredibly beautiful yet soul-crushing version of Let It Be.
I love everything about Sadie. I think she's my favorite character of the whole movie, and her vibe is just so cool.
Yeah, totally cool. Especially what, her, I was going to say her costumes, which they are her costumes.
Yes.
But her whole wardrobe is great. I love her massive curly hair. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with you on the vibe, Sadie. Totally badass. That Let It Be sequence, I'll never forget in theaters. I don't think that guy sang it, but I was so engrossed at the time, it just brought me to tears. And every time I watch this movie, when the choir starts in, and oh gosh, it just cuts me to my core. And it's sung by a very talented young child who unfortunately gets killed during a riot in Detroit, which we all remember. Well, we don't remember, but we've seen the history of the riots in Detroit. So now that Max and Jude are in New York, we are taken back to the Lucy timeline, and unfortunately, she finds out that her boyfriend has been killed in battle. So now Lucy doesn't really have much direction at home. She asks her parents if it would be fine with them if she could go to New York and live with Max for a little while and see the world and see what's going on, because she's very young as well, and she wants to see what's going on out there. And so she ends up in New York, and Jude and Lucy start to hang out a little bit more and start to form a bit of a bond, and then ultimately start to fall in love through a lot of really great Beatles songs, especially If I Fell in Love with You and Blackbird, and just really great renditions. The cool thing about this movie is that these songs are sung by the actors, and they're not lip-syncing anything, which is great. They sang on set, and then they recorded the album, which I have the CD somewhere in one of my bins. But I've just never been the biggest Beatles fan, but this movie really turned me on to a lot more Beatles songs than I knew existed. So I'll be grateful for this movie for that in particular, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. So Jude and Lucy are now in love and living together, and Lucy starts to kind of get on the protest game about the Vietnam War because her boyfriend ultimately was killed in battle, and her brother Max has now been drafted, and she doesn't want him to go, but he is unfortunately going to have to go, otherwise he'll be a draft dodger. He talks about going to Montreal. He talks about somehow figuring out a way to screw with his tests and make sure that he doesn't get sent, but unfortunately he does. Over the course of the rest of the movie, we are along for the ride while these kids are ultimately experiencing the 60s, the war in Vietnam, protest after protest, and racism and everything else that really was the cornerstone of the 60s in a very short period of time. And when I was reading the research on this, and I've watched the making of this a couple of times, they wanted it to span from 1963 to 1969, but in the tradition of timelines, they cut it down to a 2-year period. So I don't know when exactly it's supposed to take place between 63 and 69, but it's a 2-year period that we are experiencing these events with these characters.
That would be probably between 67 and 69 then, because there's
That's what I would think too, yeah.
TV showing that Martin Luther King has been shot and he was killed
That's
in
right.
68.
All right, there you go. Perfect. So that is Across the Universe. If you have not seen this movie, I think this might have been my 12th or 13th time watching it since 2007. Like I said, I watched it twice in theaters. The second time, I actually took my parents because my parents were Beatles fans. Like, you guys got to see this movie. And they were a little reluctant at first, but then we went and saw it, and we walked out of there. My parents were like, that was fantastic. And that seems to be the consensus with a lot of people. Now, I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I still really like the movie. However, in my personal opinion, there are a couple of moments in the movie that I'm just kind of like, that looked a little lazy. But that's just how I am perceiving it, maybe because I hadn't watched it in so long. But I like a lot of the choreography. The Come Together sequence where JoJo is coming to New York from Detroit with Joe Cocker is so badass. I think that one's one of the best ones, next to Get High with a Little Help from My Friends, or Get By with a Little Help from My Friends, excuse me. They do get high. And there's a whole bunch of other renditions that are great. I Want You is amazing. Happiness is a Warm Gun. Fantastic sequence in the movie. That's just my take on Across the Universe until we talk a little bit more about it. Now, V, I know you hadn't seen this movie, so I'm curious what you thought of Across the Universe for your first time watch. Oh, and I did not mention this movie was directed by Julie Taymor. And if you don't know who Julie Taymor is, she's a badass. And she, we'll get into a little bit more of Julie Taymor in just a little bit. So V, go on. Let us know. Rip the Band-Aid off. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was okay?
I have very mixed feelings about this movie.
I had a feeling you would.
First and foremost, it's a musical and you didn't tell me it was one. And based on my pick this week, that has songs in it, but is not a musical. I was rather shocked at the first scene of this movie.
Oh, and hey, I'm not. We don't divulge everything
apparently
about the movies we pick.
But I do remember the trailer coming out for this movie nearly 20 years ago. And I've always thought it was such a fascinating trailer, very beautiful, very colorful. It seemed interesting, and I had always wanted to watch it, so I'm really glad you picked it this week. And for a lot of the movie, I'm like you. I'm not a big Beatles fan. In fact, I'm not a Beatles fan almost at all.
Same.
My mother threatens to disown me every time I say that because she's a huge Beatles fan. And more so how impactful and how revolutionary they were when their music came out, and their haircuts and everything about them being so different and being so actually counterculture at the time. And what they've done for music and pop culture cannot be ignored. And I totally agree with that. I think they were historically significant. I'm just not a big fan of their music.
Same.
And so the weird thing for me was that I loved every single Beatles song in this movie because of the remixes.
No, absolutely. The first time it ended, I was like, okay, I like the Beatles now, but I like them this way. I don't like them the Beatles way. And that was sacrilege, even though, like, when it came out, people were like, wait, whoa. You don't like the Beatles? I'm like, look, I know what they did. It's like Nirvana and Pearl Jam. I know what they did for music. Not my thing.
Okay, I love Nirvana, so I'll just agree
with you
on
you
that.
do.
However,
a lot of people do.
You're right. And yeah, so we can respect the artists and the art while not being a fan of them. So it's okay.
Absolutely.
And so that was a really weird, confusing feeling for me right off the bat of, well, I love the music in it. But a lot of this movie felt very male forward. And it's so weird when I was watching the credits at the end that it was directed by a woman, because it felt like a guy's story.
Well, it's kind of about Jude. More than anything else, yeah.
Yes, but at the same time, like the scenes in Princeton, right? I just couldn't really relate, and I was like, oh yeah, just, guys destroying things, and there were a couple times where it felt very frat boy like. And so I wasn't getting a good feeling, if that makes sense. It felt
sure. I think that was the point. You were supposed to see like how spoiled and rich and ridiculous Max and his friends were.
Yeah.
And of course we've seen that in like Van Wilder and certain other college movies, but I can understand where you're coming from, because I never was in a fraternity. I clearly was not an Ivy League person, but I remember when I first saw it, I was like, okay, I can get behind this, because we all are in a way some sort of rebellious type in
absolutely
one way or another. Excuse me.
Absolutely, but also with Jude's story, the whole thing felt very out of touch in a lot of ways, which was so weird, because we're supposed to be following them as they're documenting major conflicts and issues and events within the 60s. And so that should elicit a lot of emotion. And instead, I felt like it was very out of touch in a lot of ways. And Jude's story in particular, and he has an argument with Lucy at one point in the movie that I think highlights this perfectly. He's talking about how she's protesting too much and she's getting too close to the leader of this group. And it felt very much like in Forrest Gump when Jenny attaches to that leader of the protest group as well, and he turns out to be a major jerk. And it felt very similar and reminiscent of that. And they're getting into an argument, and at one point she's saying how, why don't you care? And this is a really big deal. The Vietnam War is a crime, and which is all true. And she says, you don't have to care because you're not worried about being drafted because you're English, because you're a visitor in this country. And I think that is a perfect highlight of what I'm talking about, is that he doesn't have to care about what's happening to other people.
I gotcha.
And for a large part of this movie, he doesn't. And that bothered me a lot. The other thing is that this movie is extremely long, or at least felt like it.
Oh, it's only like 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's not that long.
It's 2 hours and 17 minutes, but it felt like it was nearly 3 hours to me. The pacing for me was very, very off. It just went too long so many times. However, there were a lot of really good points to it, which is why, again, I have very mixed feelings about the movie. First and foremost, Jim Sturgis sounds like Ewan McGregor to me, especially how he sings. The way he sings is exactly like how Ewan McGregor sings in Moulin Rouge. And that's funny that you said that they actually sang on set, because that's what happens in Moulin Rouge as well. I do love the Thanksgiving scene. Really great dynamic and conversations. I think the dialogue was written really well for that scene between the parents and the kids, especially when you're writing a scene that takes place many decades before you. And so as a scriptwriter, I thought it just sounded very real.
Sure.
And not cliche. And I thought they did a really good job. And when Max's dad goes, when I was in college, I washed dishes to pay my way through. And his wife goes, yep, and you haven't washed one since.
Yeah.
Let It Be, I agree, is one of the best songs of the entire movie, along with the draft song when he's getting drafted and going through all of the exams. That whole sequence with the Statue of Liberty and then walking through the miniature palm trees, I thought was really well done. I love the set design on that.
Yeah, the soldiers and the choreography when they're doing like the push-ups and stuff. That scene always blew my mind. And it still does.
Really
it's just
good.
So badass.
Yeah.
And the Uncle Sam poster coming to life was like, whoa!
Yeah, and all the soldiers having those weird faces.
Yeah.
And my favorite scene of the whole movie is actually at the diner when all of them and their friends, so Sadie, Max, Lucy, Jude, and everybody else, are having a conversation about the draft now that now that Max has gotten the letter. And they're talking all about, well, you could go to Canada. But I could never come back and see my family. I knew a guy who ate a ton of beets the night before, and so it looked like he was pissing blood.
Yeah.
This one
Eat cotton balls and makes it look like track marks.
Yeah.
They're not going to take a junkie.
Yeah, and eat cotton balls and it'll be a spot on your lung. It looks like you have cancer. And I just loved that conversation so much. It was so real. It was so terrifying, even though they're not quite scared enough yet. But as someone who now looks with the historical lens, realizing how scary the future is going to be for this young man, I loved that conversation so much. And once he is drafted, it reminded me a lot of my dad in that they took anyone at this point. Getting into the late 60s and early 70s, they were taking anyone. And my dad went through the physical, has horrific eyesight. He cannot see 3 feet in front of him if he doesn't have his glasses on. Like arms outstretched or like maybe 5 feet away from him, I start to get blurry. And so he was talking about how in the rain or in the mud, his glasses would get dirty and he wouldn't know if it was friend or foe right next to him.
Whoa.
And they still gave him a draft number. And so I always remember, I really remembered that during that draft conversation. And it was just so sad and such a waste, like the whole thing, right? And so I really like the backdrop. And of course, the music matches the timeline of this movie, which is perfect. And everyone who shows up, oh my gosh, Logan Marshall Green being the head.
I was going to say, did you recognize Paco? Because I did.
Yes. He's great. He's in Prometheus and my previous pick of Upgrade. Bono.
There's another previous pick actor in this movie of yours, too.
Yes, the guy... The kid from Eurotrip is in this movie with long hair, a shaggy beard, and glasses. He's really hard to recognize, but his voice is instantly, but he's great. He was also in Justified. He's a sniper in that movie, and he's very calm and very cool. Oh, in the show, I mean, Justified.
Oh, gotcha. And, yeah.
So yeah, I've seen him around a little bit. It was good to see him again. And Bono shows up in this movie and then sings a song?
Yes, he does. Bono is I Am the Walrus. That sequence is badass. I am not a U2 fan at all. However, I do think he has a pretty cool voice, and I really liked his rendition, and he plays Dr. Roberts. He's the LSD bus driver type crazy son of a gun in this movie. Really, really cool sequence.
And then Eddie Izzard shows up, which was really fun.
That is my, I love for the benefit of Mr. Kite, that whole sequence is amazing. And Eddie Izzard was so perfect for that. It was almost like they're like, hey, let's bring Tim Burton in to do a spot. Yeah. And Tim Burton directed that moment because of all the visuals and the ways that Eddie Izzard is dressed. He's got that like red under, like that dead makeup kind of, but not really. Yeah, that sequence, that was one that I always listened to the most on the soundtrack. He's like, for the benefit of Mr. Kite. I just loved his voice. It's so unique
he's
and so
talented.
Different from the rest of the movie too. Because like, everything is so upbeat except for Let It Be and Blackbird. But then like that one comes out and it's so like circusy and so trippy. It was so cool.
So it was really nice to see those two men pop up and the reaction is like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then we have a cameo by someone else who really took me by surprise and was quite shocking because I would have never expected her in a movie like this.
Oh, yeah, but so sexy. Salma Hayek as the nurse in Happiness is a Warm Gun. And then they multiply her like 6 times, and it's like, we have 6 Salma Hayeks. Yes.
Which was delightful. So yes, I loved the set direction. I loved the remixes of all these songs. I loved the performances within the songs. And at the same time, I think the movie is too long. I don't want to ever watch it again, but I absolutely want to listen to the soundtrack in the future.
All right, yeah, there you go. That's cool. Well, that's unfortunate you don't ever want to watch the movie again, but
it's way too long.
Maybe if you got some shrooms, it would be a much better experience for you.
No, if I go on shrooms again, it'll be for Elemental or something that's very colorful. Avatar.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes.
There's too much war and violence and depression in this movie to have a good trip.
That's a solid point. Well, that's cool. Speaking of Salma Hayek, she actually approached Julie Taymor about being in this movie because Julie Taymor directed her in Frida a couple of years beforehand. Okay. And I don't know if you've seen Frida, but that movie is really good. But I've only seen it one time because it's pretty damn heavy.
Okay. Yes, I haven't seen it actually, but I always heard good things, and there were Oscar noms when it came out. And I know my mom and my aunt are fans of Frida Kahlo. follow the artist. So I know they were
yeah.
really interested in that movie when it came out. But no, I actually had never seen it.
And it did win 2 Oscars for makeup and for original music. Unfortunately, Salma Hayek did not win that year in 2003.
Bummer.
Yeah. But it's still a good movie. Doesn't mean that it's not a good movie.
No, of course not. And just because something wins an Oscar doesn't mean it is a good movie.
That's 1,000% correct. I didn't talk about the writers of this movie. Ian LaFernace, he was one of the writers of the screenplay for this movie, and Dick Clement was also a screenplay writer on this movie. Julie Taymor came up with the story with the 2 of those fellows. And Julie Taymor, on top of this movie, also directed a movie called Titus with Anthony Hopkins.
Ooh.
That's supposed to be really, really good. I've just never had a chance to see it. It stars Jessica Lange as well. And I've heard nothing but great things about Titus. I just have never had the chance to take a look at it.
I just will always remember the poster of his face and all the blue paint with the helmet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Julie Taymor, she also has done, she's done a couple of Broadway plays as well, and most notably the one that I remember, I didn't see it, but Spider-Man on Broadway with U2 as the orchestrator, or I think U2 was involved in the soundtrack somehow. I can't remember. I was living in New York at the time it came out, and this was in 2010, and I was like, oh, Julie Taymor, I really like Across the Universe. I should try and go see this play, this Spider-Man on Broadway, but it kept getting shut down every couple of weeks because of stunt issues that were arising on the show. I think it got good reviews if I recall correctly, but I never did get a chance to see it. But either way, it's still not the end of the world. I like Julie Taymor's style, and I for this and for Frida, so we should check out Titus one day. It's 3 hours, but it might be a good 3 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Anthony Hopkins. We'll probably have a good time.
I think so. Like we've mentioned, this movie is based off of Beatles songs and renditions of Beatles songs, and Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr were very big fans of the movie. Jim Sturgis and Evan Rachel Wood actually had a chance to watch the movie with Ringo Starr in theaters, and they spent the evening with him talking about the movie, and Ringo Starr praised their performances and the use of the songs. And Paul McCartney also watched a private viewing with Julie Taymor and others and would not stop gushing to Julie Taymor how much he enjoyed the use of the songs in the movie. And I don't normally bring John Lennon's ex-wife Yoko Ono up because nobody seems to like her, but she praised the movie as well.
Well, and that's the thing, is that everything I've read about John Lennon is also pretty terrible. He was a pretty shitty person, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but he beat his ex-wife. He hit his kids. He treated people poorly. Like, he wasn't a great guy.
Never would have guessed. He just looks like such a clean-cut, happy-go-lucky
that's
British
the thing,
man.
Is that I always remember him in the Annie Leibovitz photo set when he's in bed with Yoko and he has long hair and a beard. And that's how I remember him.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think of him as clean cut.
Well, when the Beatles first came out, he didn't have all the beard and long hair. That's what I'm referring to. But there was a couple of years ago, I was watching a documentary on the 60s, and he and Yoko Ono were both being interviewed about the war in Vietnam and how he's like, of course, give peace a chance. And Imagine, and this is when Imagine had come out and everything, and so many people just like completely talked down to him about like how stupid he was for protesting the war and how ignorant he was to the fact that everything that's happening should be happening. Mm-hmm. It was really fascinating because, of course, all these years later, you find out that Vietnam was just a complete joke, and a lot of people had the right idea in protesting the thing. So anyway, moving on, Julie Taymor, in her contract for this movie, had final cut. There was a studio executive that decided to go around Julie Taymor's final cut and recut the movie. Julie Taymor found out about it and sued him, ultimately getting all of his cuts destroyed. She retained final cut and said that nobody's to ever bring that up to me ever again because, of course, I completely agree. If you have final cut in your contract, then you get final fucking cut. I think Frida was her first big Hollywood movie. It was nominated for several Oscars. And then this movie comes out and the studio head's like, it's not that great. I'm going to recut it myself. And she comes in like guns blazing, like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, get the fuck out of here. So I really applaud her for doing that. And we always applaud anybody, male or female, that keeps to their contract and totally puts people in their place. There is a little bit of nudity in this movie. Apparently, they had to cut one scene out of Evan Rachel Wood to retain the PG-13 rating. And it's not even like sexy nudity. It's not a sex scene or anything like that. She's just asleep. And I remember when I first saw this, I was like, oh shit, this is a PG-13 movie. But then, of course, you think back to Titanic, and that was a PG-13 movie. There's a little bit more nudity in this movie, but it's mostly people's asses when they're swimming on LSD in the water. But again, it's the 60s too. And this is that, I feel like this was the type of movie that it came out at the right time in 2007. And all age groups were in the theater when I saw this movie both times. It wasn't like it was only adults. There were a lot of young teenagers with their families, and I don't think there was anybody under the age of 10 in the theater, but it still was like one of those, like you said, V, it's very long to you, but a lot of people got their information through this movie about Vietnam at a certain age that probably hadn't even heard about it yet. So I always find movies like that interesting. It's similar to me when in 1999 I went and saw The Hurricane with Denzel Washington. I knew about the racism and Martin Luther King and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't know about the hurricane story. And that is on my list, and we'll talk about that more in the future. But when I was that age, I was 14 years old, like realizing like what these people did to help Reuben Carter get out of prison was monumental, especially at the time that the movie took place.
Yes, I had no idea about Reuben Hurricane Carter either until I watched the film, and I was very grateful for that.
Yeah, definitely. And we will bring that up in the future when we discuss it. Joe Anderson, when in the audition process for this movie, was being considered for Jude, but he told Julie Taymor that he would rather play Max and they should get a real Brit to play Jude. And then Jim Sturgis auditioned, and he got the job. And Jim Sturgis, I like his work. He's in Cloud Atlas, which is a future pick of mine. He's also in a movie called 21 about counting cards with Lawrence Fishburne and Kevin Spacey. I didn't like that movie very much, but I liked his performance in it. And after that movie, Sturgis drops a movie with Anne Hathaway called One Day, which is a love story that I really, really fell in love with when I saw it the first time. And I think I watched it like 5 or 6 times after that. I haven't watched it in a couple of years, but it's a very sweet romance. And then he did this movie with Kirsten Dunst and Timothy Spall called Upside Down. And I don't know if a lot of people know about this movie Upside Down, but it takes place in a universe where there are an upside down. It's so hard to explain. There's like one level, like I don't even really know how to explain this movie, but it's a trip and a half. If you have a couple of minutes, I think it's like an hour and a half long. He plays a character named Adam, and Kirsten Dunst plays Eden. And it is a set in a world where there are 2 worlds, one above the other, and they have their own gravities pulling in the opposite direction. And it's such a trip because at one point Timothy Spall and Jim Sturgis are at work, but Timothy Spall is on the ground level and Jim Sturgis is on the upside down level, and they're talking to each other and having this conversation, and they become friends because they work together in this weird double gravity world. It's a really weird-ass movie, but it's kind of cool, too. It might suck now. I don't really remember a lot of the movie, but that was another one that Jim Sturgis showed up in that I really liked. The opening club that Jude is dancing in with his girlfriend at the time is actually a rebuilding of the first club that the Beatles ever played in Liverpool.
Oh, cool. And yes, I really did like the opening scenes of this movie where Lucy is having this nice, bright dance with the 50s music or 60s music. And it's just so soft. And, you know, there's only a little bit of drums. It's that classic band at the time. And then you swap over, same song, to Jude having that dance in Liverpool. And like you said, it's almost like the Clash are playing that song, right? And it's darker and they're wearing, you know, black and dark blue clothes. And I just love the differences that they decided to pick with performing the same exact song, but showing the different styles of life in 2 different countries. It was a great way to intro the movie, that's for sure.
Fully agree with you there. Across the Universe dropped on October 12th, 2007, had a $45 million budget, and it did not do very well at all. Domestically, it brought in 24.6, and worldwide brought in 29.6. So it did not do very well, which is unfortunate because the 2 times I saw it, it was sold out, and I remember it being sold out a lot, but this was in LA. So, you know, across the United States domestically, obviously not many people really did see it. I think New York did well as well, but not like the Midwest or anything like that. But either way, I'm a fan of the movie, and I'm sorry, V, you didn't have as much fun as I would have hoped you to have had with this this movie, but at least you got into the music again, and we'll maybe Spotify the soundtrack and enjoy these renditions of the Beatles songs. So that is Across the Universe, everybody. If you care to check it out, it is currently available for rent on Apple. That is where you can see it in 4K. I believe Amazon has it on 4K as well, but you better believe I will get a 4K copy of this movie because it is still a favorite movie of mine. And I didn't talk about this a lot, but I am a big Evan Rachel Wood fan. I really like her as an actress. And a couple of movies I just want to mention that she's in, other than 13, which really put her on the map with Nikki Reed. She is in a movie called King of California that is great with Michael Douglas. She is also in The Missing with Cate Blanchett and Tommy Lee Jones. She's also in The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, the Darren Aronofsky flick. She is in Whatever Works with Larry David, one of the Woody Allen movies that will likely be on the podcast in the future. And also, if you're a Frozen fan, Evan Rachel Wood plays the mother in Frozen and sings all her songs in Frozen 2, which is one of my favorite soundtracks from the Frozen universe.
And she also plays Sandra Bullock's blonde daughter in Practical Magic.
Oh, no way. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
She's one of the kids.
I don't remember that. That's awesome. Well, there you go. There it is. Good times. Thumbs up across the universe. I think it's time to stay in the 60s. I think we go to 1964 for your pick this week, V.
We do.
All right, sweet. Let's jump in, V, to your pick this week.
All right, we are going to rewind in time not only in the movie universe, but also in ours, because my movie came out in 1996.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And it's set in 1964. This is not a musical, but it has a lot of music in it because it follows a one-hit wonder band from Erie, PA. This is Tom Hanks' directorial debut, so I was very excited to talk about that part in the movie.
Yeah.
This is That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
Doing that
thing you do.
The second best fake band and fake song ever in a movie. Second only to Scotty Doesn't Know and Eurotrip.
Yeah. I actually have, I don't know if I told you this, I might have, but before we get into your movie, at the bar that I work at, we get a lot of input as bartenders, and we're having a new menu drop. And I am doing a mezcal take on a pina colada, and I told my manager, it was actually scotch to begin with, and he was like, what name do you want to do? And I dropped a bunch, and then finally I was like, how about Scotty Doesn't Know? And he was all about it, but corporate and marketing were like, no, we're not doing that. So I got turned down for my name of my cocktail. But either way, it's all good. We are calling it the Gone Squatchin', and we switched it to mezcal. So it's gonna be like a mezcal pina colada. It's gonna be really tasty.
A stupid name.
I didn't choose that one.
No, I know. That's why I said it.
No,
because
yeah,
I know
but
yours was better.
Yeah.
Your naming.
Yeah, Scotty Doesn't Know was great. All of my managers were like, we loved it, but marketing said no. Okay, anyway, That Thing You Do. Getting back to it.
Okay. So we were following a few young people in Erie, PA, and they're starting out, and they have a small band. And this is Jimmy, Leo, and the bass player, along with a guy named Chad. We actually never hear the name of the bass player. He is credited as TB Player, the bass player.
Yeah, so funny.
The credits, and he's played by Ethan Embry. Now, Chad is played by Giovanni Ribisi, who actually doesn't share any scenes with Tom Hanks in this movie, but does in a future movie of Saving Private Ryan. He's the medic.
Oh, yes. That's right.
He's also Nick Cage's younger brother in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And Phoebe's younger brother in Friends.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's right. I do remember him in Showing Up in Friends.
And so these four guys are in a band, and they're like basically right out of high school, it seems like. And
definitely.
They're going to a talent show, but unfortunately, guys, Chad fell down.
Oh, I love that line so much. So great.
They're hopping parking meters on the street, and Chad unfortunately trips, falls, and breaks his arm. And as the drummer, that's a pretty big deal.
Yes, it is.
So now these guys are in a talent show that evening, and they're in desperate need of a replacement drummer. Luckily, Guy Patterson is a friend of theirs, especially Leo's, who's played by Steve Zahn. He's the guitarist. We love Steve Zahn. He was great in a previous pick of mine, Crimson Tide. He was one of the seamen.
Oh, yeah.
He's also in Out of Sight. He works at Meg Ryan's bookshop, and You've Got Mail.
Yes.
We love him in Sahara, even though it's a terrible movie. We don't think it is.
Yep.
And he was most recently in Anaconda.
Anaconda. And he's in a future pick of mine called Strange Wilderness, but that's coming up in the future.
Okay. Steve Zahn, playing Leo in this movie, knows Guy Patterson, who's played by Tom Everett Scott. This is actually Tom Everett Scott's feature film debut.
Oh, wow.
And Tom Hanks actually was initially opposed to hiring him because Tom Everett Scott looks a lot like Tom Hanks when he was younger.
Wow. Yeah, he does. Now that I'm thinking about it and hear this, like, holy shit, he does. In like his big era.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But Tom Hanks' wife, Rita Wilson, finally convinced him to hire Tom Everett Scott because she thought Scott was cute. Which, he's a young Tom Hanks. Of course she thinks that.
Yeah, of course she would. Oh, when she shows up in this movie? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah.
So they go to Guy Patterson, who is working at his father's appliance store, and say, please, we know you're a drummer. Please, please, please help us out. And he goes, yeah, sure. And so they go practice in someone's garage, and it's this really boring ballad of a song.
Oh, yeah.
That's just not exciting to listen to at all. But he's a really, really good drummer, so it's really easy for him to play it. Steve Zahn has hilarious lines in this movie.
Yes, he
often.
does.
At one point, Ethan Embry, the bass player, says, oh, that was so good. It took Chad a week to learn that song. And Steve Zahn goes, Chad? Who's Chad?
Yeah.
They've already forgotten about him. It's so great. That's when Guy Patterson says, wonderful. This is where their band name comes in because they've been trying to do some sort of pun on their name, like the Herdsmen or something like that. And
the Corvettes.
The Corvettes, yeah. This is very reminiscent, and there's a lot of parallels to the Beatles in this movie. And Tom Hanks does that on purpose. It's a story about all these bands that came out in the 60s, right after the Beatles came out, that were trying to copy their sound a little bit. And there's a lot of one-hit wonders in the 60s as well. And so there's a lot of parallels to the Beatles because that was a lot of inspiration. They decide to call themselves the Wonders, but it's O-N-E, Wonders, which of course then Steve Zahn says, that looks like the Oneaters.
Yeah.
That's what everybody calls them for a while. And this is where we get introduced to Charlize Theron, who plays Tina,
so
Guy's
buxom
girlfriend. And she was actually the very first actress to audition for her part and the first person to be cast in the movie.
Oh, cool.
She has a very small part. She didn't originally, and I'll get into that in a little bit as well.
Oh.
So now we're following these guys to that night's talent show, and it's so cute. It's in a gymnasium. They're on the stage. I mean, my gym looked exactly the same. I think yours probably would have too, right? It's very classic design for a gymnasium.
Yeah.
Mine was built in like
gymnasium.
the 40s, so it makes sense.
Oh, okay. I don't know when my high school was actually built, but our gymnasium, it was huge.
Oh, okay.
It was massive,
No,
but it
mine
still had that basketball court and you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They could break it up into two, basically.
Oh, Jesus. No, mine was tiny.
Yeah, it was
just
huge.
a basketball court and there was a stage in the back. And so we had a lot of presentation. That's where we all graduated. There were school plays on there, lots of stuff. Anyway, so now they're at this talent show. And unfortunately, Guy Patterson has this stroke of genius, really, is what it turns out to be. But he starts playing the beat and the tempo on his drums for this song, That Thing You Do, very fast. And Jimmy, who we're quickly finding out sucks. He's really arrogant and it's kind of his way or the highway. He is saying, no, slow down. That's not the song. Slow down. But Guy keeps going. And finally, the rest of the band picks up on this and starts playing this song, That Thing You Do, at this up-tempo pace. And all of the kids are going crazy for it. It's a great hit. It turns out Guy had the right instincts. And so now they go play at Villa Pianos, which is a pizza place out by the airport. And all the kids come to Villa Pianos specifically to hear the Oneaters play. They do and keep getting more and more fans. And at one point, they discuss recording a record. And this is where Chris Isaak comes into play because he's Uncle Bob, who records a couple of their songs onto a record at his church, which is a great scene.
Oh, yeah.
And now they have records that they're selling at their performances. And this is where a small-time record producer and promoter comes in and listens to them and gets them on a contract and also gets them on the radio. And this is where they play at a big showcase in Pennsylvania, and this is where we get a very short cameo by Kevin Pollak, which is great. He plays Vic the Boss Koss, who's like famous MC or something, and we recently discussed him in A Few Good Men. He's also Yanni Gogolak in The Whole Nine Yards, a previous pick of of mine, as well as Willow. He's a brownie, so this is the fourth movie of his that I've picked. He's very talented and very fun to see, even if he's in a small part like this one. And so now things are getting bigger and bigger, and Tom Hanks comes in. He plays Mr. White. He works for Playtone Records, which is a very large record producing company in Los Angeles. And so these guys are on the fast track, and they start doing state fair tours where there's a whole host of bands that come on and play their hits and then quickly get off the stage. And so now the boys are on this big tour across the country, and that's very reminiscent of these state fair tours that a lot of bands did in fact play in the 60s and 70s all the way into the 80s. The problem is that these fairgrounds were managed by all these guys who were friends, and so they all got together to negotiate prices way down for bands so they wouldn't pay them as much, which was super shitty.
Oh, yeah.
Now that their song, That Thing You Do, is on the radio, it keeps climbing the charts. And now they've got a #1 hit record. And now they go out to Los Angeles. And this is the point where I realize that I've forgotten to talk about Faye, played by Liv Tyler.
I was wondering when she was going to show up.
My bad. I'm so sorry, Liv. We love you.
That's all good.
Big fans of
Yes.
you. And she actually plays Jimmy's girlfriend in the movie, Faye, and she becomes their costume manager in order to travel with them on the road. And Liv Tyler is in one of John's all-time favorite movies, Armageddon.
Yeah.
She also plays an elf in Lord of the Rings. I love that scene in The Fellowship where she's riding the horse and all the wraiths are riding after her, and it's a helicopter shot. It's one of my all-time favorite scenes in any movie just because I love how it's set up and the color contrast and everything about it. And so for the rest of the movie, we continue to follow along these young men as their record gets bigger and bigger. They're appearing on not only radio shows, but movie sets.
Yeah.
Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters.
Shrimp Shack Shooters. I love that that whole interview. What are some of your influences? And then Tom Hanks looks over at Steve Zahn's character, is like, what the hell are you doing?
They also appear on TV, which I think is my favorite scene in the whole movie just because of the way the camera shots are, and the cinematography in that scene is great.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this is a really fun journey to follow along this band that makes it big, and all the characters are pretty fleshed out nicely. I mean, they're all very different, which I like, but Guy, I love him just because he's the nice guy.
Yep.
But Steve Zahn being the comedic relief is so good, and everything he says is so...
Everything he says is hysterical.
Everything he says. When in the very beginning of the movie, when they're playing at Villapiano's, and the skinny guy comes over and asks if they're going to make a record, and Steve Zahn goes, "Hey, wasn't that our fan?"
Yeah.
I love Tom Hanks in this role because it's so different than what we expect. He's not very nice. He's not a jerk at all, but he's just cold. And that's so unlike Tom Hanks' roles. He's very closed off. We don't learn a lot about him. That is completely different from what we're used to as well. But I think my favorite line is when they're at the state fair and talking about this very large DJ across the stage. And it is very important that you don't stink tonight. He's a DJ. He's going to play your record on the radio. Well, he's the biggest cootie I ever saw. And then they're being interviewed at a state fair, and Steve Zahn goes, "Oh no, I'm not in the band. I've got a pig in competition. I'm gonna win that blue
I'm gonna
ribbon."
win that blue ribbon.
Which I still say to this day.
Oh my god, yeah, I just can't even. So damn funny.
Okay,
because that's like the type of shit that I would do. Like if I were, I would be like, "Oh no, I'm just here to like." Yeah, no, it's just so real. It's so funny.
It's so real because I was in state and county fairs. I did show animals.
Oh.
I was in
did you really?
for years, and so were all my siblings.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, so that is super familiar and very accurate. And the FFA, the Future Farmers of America, actually had to authorize all of their jackets being used in one of the scenes, and it was to make it authentic because those are real FFA jackets, which is really cool. So.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I mean, I can keep talking about this movie because I've been watching it for now. It's officially 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I've loved it ever since. The soundtrack is great. We'll get into who wrote it in a little bit. And there's, of course, more scenes that I love that I could talk about, but I definitely want to give you the floor and the microphone and let you discuss some of your favorites. Because, I mean, other than knowing that you like this film, we've never talked about it.
No, it's true. Yeah, we have not really ever touched on it at all, and this, as good a time as any, of course, on the podcast to bring it out of the woodwork. I don't think I saw this movie in theaters. I know my parents did, and they were big fans of it. And when it came out to rent, my parents rented it, and we all watched it as a family. And then we got the VHS, and my sister and I would fight over who was going to watch it in their room, like to fall asleep to or whatever. It was certainly a staple in my house for a very long time. And I still own a VHS copy of it. I think I either in a move at one point either got lost or my parents gave it away. I don't know what happened, but at Amoeba one day I found it for $1 in the VHS section. I was like, oh, I'm totally getting this movie because it is so good. It's hard to put perfection on a lot of movies, but I like watching it this time around. I was like, this movie literally is like almost perfect. Like it's got everything you want in it. It's got the romance. It's got the comedy that doesn't stop. Yeah. It's got the family dynamic with Guy and his family, the whole, the cliche whole thing with the father, like, oh, well, you're not turning the sign off. I'll just come out here and do it myself because you're out busy playing with your band and banging on your toys and blah, 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 blah. And I like the scene where he's on the phone with Guy and Guy's like, yeah, we're going to be going across the country and yada, yada. And he hangs up the phone and he looks at Guy's sister. He goes, well, you just been promoted. She goes, does that mean you're going to start paying me? He goes, I didn't say that. And like walks away. Like that whole thing.
That poor girl.
Like so lame. Yeah, so lame. And the scene where Faye is doing the mail and that exposition of that scene where everybody is doing something different, but they have a Walkman radio in their ear. Mm-hmm. And Guy is at the store eating a burger and his dad's like, get that thing out of your ear. Stop eating. Go talk to them about that washing machine. And Faye's mailing something. And then all of a sudden the song comes on the radio. And watching it this time, I actually got choked up. Like I was like super excited for them because I've seen this movie. Like you said, I've been watching it 30 years. I've probably seen this movie like 20, 25 times. But as I've been getting older and certain good things happen in some of my favorite movies, I get so emotional about it because I'm like, fuck yeah.
Same.
It did happen.
Same.
And of course, when they're all like running around the store and then Steve Zahn like almost kisses Guy's sister, but he kisses the fucking cardboard cutout of the woman and he starts running around the store and Guy's dad's like, hey, that's a very expensive piece of equipment. And the scene actually when they go and pitch the whole thing to Guy and he's like, you know what? I'll do it for you if you buy a clock radio. They're on sale right now for $14.95. And both of them like, all right, fine, shit, yeah, we'll buy it. But then, like you said, Tom Hanks shows up and he brings these guys on this whirlwind. And then another bombshell in this movie when Guy finally meets Del Paxton, his favorite jazz drummer and jazz artist. And he's like, well, we've only been together 2 months. It's like, what the hell? Like, it's such a great way to see how the rise can happen so fast. And even Del Paxton's like, man, sometimes that's 2 months too long. I've been with band members and bands that have only lasted a week, and you got to keep playing. And I love that whole dynamic between both of them. And of course, it's great, like when he finally meets Del Paxton, because there's so many other moments in the movie where they're talking music and like who their inspirations are. And even at that radio scene where Steve Zahn's like the Shrimp Shack Shooters, Guy Patterson is like, oh well, Del Paxton, and Clint Howard, the disc jockey's like, yeah, and they start talking about Del Paxton. And even when they do their first fair, the Mr. Downtown guy, like Guy is like singing the whole song, and then he's like, "You're singing it better than I am," and like walks away. And Diane Dane, yeah. And he's like, "You were very important to me." And yeah, I just like the whole dynamic. The time period was brought to life so well in the movie by Tom Hanks, and production design and the music, and even the opening song, "I love you lots and lots." Like that song is so catchy and so upbeat, and it made me think about like when I was watching this and that opening was happening. I'm like, man, this reminds me back when I would watch old Ed Sullivan stuff, and like even before then, like the black and white, like you'd have the Temptations or the Diana Ross, like all these artists and bands, and I'm just like, man, I should go down another rabbit hole. Just the span of music like that this movie reminded me of even decades before was something that I actually really was happy about. So that thing you do is a big thumbs up for me, and absolutely love the movie. So I'm glad that we're finally discussing it.
Oh, yes, I'm so glad, and me too, and I think it's perfect for the podcast because it is underrated. It didn't do very well in theaters, and
yeah, that's too bad.
Which totally sucks, but it has become a bit of a cult classic. A lot of people, especially our age, talk about this movie now and that it should be revisited, and I really enjoyed watching it this week because, like I said, I hadn't watched it in about 10 years, and a lot of the conversations, the quieter parts of the movie, I was able to really absorb so much better because I'm older, and so, yeah, in the jazz club, when Guy goes and listens to all these great musicians, and then that's where we meet Rita Wilson as this really hot jazz waitress.
Oh,
she's
gosh.
great.
Marguerite.
And that's actually her original name is Marguerite. She changed
Oh, is it really?
to Rita Wilson for show business. But yeah, and so that's why Tom Hanks wrote that. But she introduces Guy to Del Paxton, and that conversation about bands and sticking together or not was so good. And it always just, I kind of just tuned out back when I was a teenager during that scene because I'm like, yeah, they're talking. Let's get back to the music. And now it's one of my or what I feel like is the more heartwarming scenes of the movie that has this wonderful, honest conversation between two men who love music, and I really liked that. And there's just so many different aspects of this movie that I think there was a lot of attention to detail, which I really liked. And first and foremost, a lot of the last names of the side characters were named after pilots and astronauts because it's Tom Hanks, which I thought was really cool.
Cool.
During the Hollywood Television Showcase, as it's called, that's the show they're going to be on. Bryan Cranston actually plays NASA astronaut Gus Grissom. That's Bryan Cranston, which was really cool, an earlier role of his. Yeah.
And I think the reason why he did that was, if I am remembering correctly, he also played Gus Grissom in From the Earth to the Moon.
He played it,
which was like around the same time.
It was actually a little bit later, and that helped him with casting.
Okay.
And
got it. Cool.
So they worked together again in the future, which was really cool. And the studio where the Hollywood Television Showcase, this fake TV show that they're playing on, is filmed is actually the Bob Barker studio. It's Studio 33 at CBS. And that's
very cool.
That's where The Price is Right is taped. Oh, God, I used to watch that so much as a kid with my grandma.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It was fun guessing.
If I was sick, it was Price is Right.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I love the costumes so much. Like you said, the set decoration is impeccable. Everything about this movie feels like 1964.
Totally.
I love the costume so much, especially Faye's dress for the television show. And I don't know if you noticed, but she is escorted to her seat by Colin Hanks.
I did not notice that at all. Nope.
Yes.
I was looking at her, so.
Yeah, which is fair.
But yeah, that's cool. Very cool.
Not only is Rita Wilson also in this movie, like we said, Tom Hanks' wife, but his son, Colin Hanks, and also his daughter, Elizabeth Hanks, is just this background player in the dress shop when Faye is picking up her dress. So
very cool.
Most of his kids are in this movie, which is really cute. And speaking of scenes that we really like, I love the conversation between Tom Hanks and Tom Everett Scott in the recording studio towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
It brings the whole movie together so nicely. And like you said, this film is just so well crafted from beginning to end. And it's so weird to me then that this has an extended edition.
Does it really?
40 extra minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah. There is
interesting
heated debate online on which one is better. Some people hate the pacing of the extended edition. Others love it and really adore all of the extra scenes that are given, which is a deeper dive into Guy and Tina's relationship and then her inevitable affair with her dentist, which is hilarious, which is why they break up. A lot more character development. It expands on the movie a lot. There aren't, from what I read online, because I actually haven't seen the extended edition. I didn't know about it until this week when I was doing research, actually.
I had no clue.
I've been watching this movie for 30 years. It came out in 2007 on a DVD, and most of the scenes are like 20 seconds here, 60 seconds there. But then there are a couple scenes that are a bit longer that are added in to add up to about 40 minutes. And one of them being that Tom Hanks' character as the record producer is gay in this film, and his boyfriend is Howie Long.
No way.
Yes, and that actually
is interesting.
Well, it's an homage to real life because the Beatles' manager was gay.
Oh, wow.
Brian Epstein. That was a nod to him and a tribute. So that's why he wrote his character as being gay in the film. And so, yeah, there's all these little things. But like I said, there is a very heated discussion online, actually multiple of them, where people are arguing whether or not the pacing is wrong in the long movie or whether or not it's just a deeper dive into these great characters and pun intended, wonderful story, which Mr. White is the one that fixes their band name when they're starting to get bigger and says, we're just changing it to the Wonders. And they say, as in, I wonder what happened to the Oneaters? Exactly. And so, yeah, I think at one point I do want to watch the extended cut just to have that experience. And because I love this movie so much, I think I owe it to Tom Hanks to do it and decide which one I like the most. And I think we should do that together since you love it too.
Yeah, that would be a blast.
Great.
It's so rare that the extended version is better. And I know you do not like this movie, but the Walk Hard Dewey Cox story is an hour and a half, the R-rated version. There's a 2 hour and 10 minute cut of the movie that is superior And because, like That Thing You Do, they go more into a little bit more of his backstory and a lot more musical performances that he does, and ultimately his downfall, really. But it's, wow. I would definitely watch the That Thing You Do director's cut. Absolutely.
Great. Okay, well then, that's a plan. And yes, I've heard good things about Walk Hard. I've never seen it just because I don't usually like farcical movies, except for Scary Movie. But, or at least Scary
I thought
Movie
you
2.
had seen it.
No, I've never seen it.
Well, it's on the list. I know that, so you will see it at some point.
I have to pick some other satire then.
Yes, you do.
Okay. And so just to discuss a little bit more about who's in this movie and a couple more pieces of trivia. Ethan Embry plays the bass player, even though he's never named in the film. I really like Ethan. I've always been a fan of his.
Yeah, he's good.
I mean, he's not one of those people that up-levels a movie significantly like some of the other character actors we've talked about, but he's just, it makes me happy to see him. I don't know. He just kind of warms my heart when he's on screen, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, no, it does.
He just always seems so sweet, and I love him. He's in the Reese Witherspoon rom-com called Sweet Home Alabama. He's her gay cousin, Bobby Ray. He's very good. Very good. He plays Chevy Chase's son in Vegas Vacation. He plays the adult Rusty.
Yes, he does.
And he also stars in a movie I will be picking in the future called Can't Hardly Wait, which was...
Oh, yeah.
It kind of came out around the same time as 10 Things I Hate About You and Varsity Blues and just those 90s high school movies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I always thought Can't Hardly Wait was really underrated, so it's definitely going to be...
I don't remember that movie very much.
See,
I saw it one time. Yeah, it's been a very long time.
Great
and I
soundtrack.
love Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah. And beyond that, the last cast member I wanted to mention was the man who plays the head of Playtone Records, which is the name of the record company. That is Alex Rocco. He's Mo Green in The Godfather.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
And he also plays J-Lo's dad in The Wedding Planner.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and so beyond that, just a little bit more about the behind the scenes of That Thing You Do. Steve Zahn is an accomplished singer and guitarist. He played guitar and sang in both this movie and Saving Silverman.
Oh, Saving Silverman. That movie is hysterical.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's so funny.
And I really love Steve Zahn's song in this movie, Come On Pretty Baby.
Yeah, that's a good one.
When they cut to it, it's a really good song, and he has a very good voice. Really enjoyed that.
Does.
Really enjoyed that a lot. And similar to the Beatles, where multiple members of the band were singers.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Hanks, not only did he direct this movie, like I said, it was his directorial debut, but he also wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
He wrote the script while doing a promotional tour for Forrest Gump in 1994 because he was so bored. Because those nonstop interviews, we've talked about this very, very briefly in the past.
Yeah.
It's worth reminding our audience that these press tours that all of the actors go on to promote their movies, they are asked the same simple questions by every journalist in every single city that they stop in. I've been told repeatedly, and I'm sure you have too, by actors, that they hate promotional tours.
Oh, yeah.
With the essence of their souls. Like, it is so boring.
You get to travel, but you just sit around all day.
Sucks. Well, and you're not really visiting the cities. You're just stuck in hotel rooms that they set up with the poster board behind you and the chairs you're sitting in and the lighting and then the journalists on the other side. And that's why now on YouTube, there's all of these videos of these stars, especially like the Avengers press tour, for example, because it's an ensemble cast, all these guys screwing around or doing really silly things, or Robert Pattinson, for example, making up all of these stories that he does when he's on tour. It's because they just get so bored because they are asked the same question over and over again, and everyone would get bored by that. I totally understand.
Hell yeah.
And
Absolutely.
So in his downtime and between setups and everything and traveling, Tom Hanks wrote That Thing You Do. So I'm grateful that he was bored because this is an awesome movie.
Hell yeah.
And now we get into the heart and soul of this movie, the song, That Thing You Do. It could not have been as beloved as it was, or this movie, I mean, and the song actually, would not have been as beloved as it is still to this day if it wasn't as catchy as it was, right?
Oh, absolutely.
This movie certainly relied on this song being good. And Adam Schlesinger, the bassist of Fountains of Wayne, wrote That Thing You Do.
Really?
And it was a contest held by the production studio.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really cool, yeah. So I like the whole soundtrack of That Thing You Do, not just this song. I think every song is great.
Yeah, it's a very good soundtrack. The songs that the Wonders all play that we get glimpses of, they're all great.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I remember owning the CD to this movie.
Oh, I think my parents might have. I never went that far with it, but I'm pretty sure my parents had the soundtrack, and we listened to it every now and then between listening to Christian rock.
Ooh, Jars of Clay, Switchfoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I listened
Newsboys.
to them without knowing they were Christian rock when I was a teenager.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think I still have my Newsboys album somewhere in a box. And some of the songs are still good, but the lyrics just don't mean anything to me anymore.
Same. And Tom Hanks named his production company Playtone after the fictional record label in this movie.
Very cool.
Yeah, I really like the colors and the record that they produce that has the Playtone label on it and the stage that they
Yeah.
perform on. All of that is really cool looking.
Super 60s, swinging 60s.
Yeah, it was very 60s, good colors and tones on their logo, and I can imagine how excited I would be if I got an official record like that printed, so.
Definitely.
And lastly, this and Larry Crown are the only two films directed by Tom Hanks.
Larry Crown.
He's on a
I
scooter.
don't think I saw that one.
I think
Oh,
Julia Roberts
yeah,
is
Julia
in it?
Roberts. Yeah,
Are they
yeah,
in
never
Europe?
saw that one.
No, me either.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know my parents did see that one and they liked it, but I have not gotten around to that one.
No, me either. He has,
Same with A Man Called Otto, and there's a couple of Tom Hanks movies I have not gotten to yet.
but he has directed some television, and he's a wonderful producer. His Space and Astronaut miniseries and TV movies have been amazing. He produced
yeah.
Band of Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
He's pretty good at making quality content.
Yes, he really is. Band of Brothers, oh my gosh. Magnificent series.
From start to finish. Highly, highly recommend. I've
Yeah.
watched it twice, and it's about time to rewatch that miniseries soon.
I was just going through my old DVDs looking for Across the Universe, and I found my steel thing
Oh,
of
yeah.
Band of Brothers.
Yeah, that's
and
a
I
cool
got
one.
that for Christmas one year, and I think I watched it 2 or 3 times within like a 6-month period, and I have not watched it since. So I think that's a revisitable show as well.
But even though John and I love this movie, unfortunately it did not do well in theaters. It had a $26 million budget, which is not bad.
No, not bad at all.
But in the US, it made $26 million.
Oh.
And worldwide, it only pulled in 35.
Oh, damn. That's too bad.
So I hope its VHS sales and DVD sales did okay.
I imagine
And
it's cult
CD
classic
soundtracks?
status now.
I
Yeah.
think that this could be classified as a cult classic for sure.
100%.
Yeah, I think your titling is completely accurate. And so that is That Thing You Do. And we hope that after this discussion, you all are excited to watch it for the first time or again.
Certainly revisitable every year at this point. It's just such a feel-good movie.
It really is. Yeah, I think that's a perfect description of it. So that is our 60s musical episode. John, would you watch Across the Universe with your grandma?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever did, though. I think my grandmother would have enjoyed it. I know she liked the Beatles, but similar to myself, they were not a band that she listened to often. So I feel like she would have liked the movie, though.
Okay.
And how about you with your grandmother with That Thing You Do?
Oh, yeah, I totally would have watched it with her. It's a very family-friendly movie.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies that you can pick if there's various ages in your group, and I think there's something about the movie each person will find to enjoy.
Fully agreed with that.
I was like 10 or so when I watched this movie for the first time. It's very accessible.
Very much so.
Yours has violence and sex and nudity in it. You need to be a little bit older to watch Across the Universe.
Yeah, like 12 or 13.
All right, well, that is our 60s musical episode. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we are getting ready for next week's very special episode that John and I have been looking forward to for, well, since the last ceremony, since we hated that ceremony so much.
Yep.
We are
Yep,
talking
yep,
about
yep.
our special Oscars recap episode.
Oscars recap. Here we go. Still got a lot of movies to watch.
I'm feeling pretty good about this year, and there's only a couple of awards that if it went to one person versus anyone else, I'd be a little bit upset, but otherwise, I'm feeling very optimistic for this ceremony.
As am I. Yeah, everything that I've watched has not been as infuriating as a lot of the ones from last year, so that's good.
Exactly. We can just pretend last year didn't happen, right?
Yes, we absolutely
Okay,
can.
great. So instead, we are going to be celebrating the 2026 Oscars next week with a recap episode, all of our reactions and what we think, and the final Oscar nominees that we watched and whether we recommend them to you or not. So please tune in for that, dropping next Wednesday. And closing out with film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think...
You can't tell a good story through music.
Yeah, I wish we had more musical episodes. There's just not as many to choose from as a lot of the other genres that we do.
That's true. There's a lot of musicals out there. There's just not a lot of good musicals.
Yeah, ones that we'd recommend.
Yes.
Actually, audience, help us out. Let us know what your favorite musicals are and which ones we should cover.
Yeah, and there's one that will never be on this on this podcast, and everybody
Absolutely
should already
not.
know the name of that one.
They
so,
absolutely do.
yeah, good.
All right, you guys, see you next week for our Oscars recap episode.
Cheers, everybody!
Bye-bye.